Welcome back, everybody. Happy Tuesday. All right, so yesterday you should have completed your purpose and audience response to the SNL skit, the Taco Town SNL skit. So today we're going to move on into reading a short article about tacos. And we're going to talk a little bit more now beyond just audience and purpose. We're going to talk more about argument appeals. And you might remember ethos, pathos, and logos maybe from another class. But we talk about those, we'll use them, but they're really argument appeals. So one thing to think about as we read, because we're going to use this text the rest of the week, we know that whoever writes something or whoever communicates something, they always do it with their audience and their purpose in mind, okay? So when it comes to a text, how they organize it, what points they try to make, all of those things are intentional choices because they're trying to achieve a purpose, right? One of those 12 different types of purpose verbs that we looked at yesterday. So as we read it this week, I want you to think about how it's organized, right? Why is it organized that way? What are they trying to do when they do things like that? Or when they say certain things, like when they start using a lot of numbers and statistics, do they break it up and then start telling a personal story? Why would they do that, right? So some of the argument appeals in terms of ethos, pathos, and logos are credibility, right? Like the ethics of something. So do you know if they're a lawyer? Are they a journalist? You know, whoever's writing it wants to come across as they know what they're doing, right? Like, so I use all of these three every single day as a teacher. I want you to know that I know what I'm doing, that I am a credible source, and that I'm doing all the assignments I am asking of you to do, right? That speaks to my ethics as your teacher. At the same time, I appeal to pathos because I try to understand that this is a really difficult situation. I understand when you're tired. I also share my emotions in terms of things as well. And then, of course, logic. What makes sense, right? Like if there are two things and two things, clearly there are four things together. So it's that logic and reasoning that we talk about where, again, not all these things are used in isolation. We kind of use them all the time together, right? Like my emotion is feeling this way. So logically, it makes sense that I would say this, which makes me a credible person because I understand the whole situation that everybody's experiencing. So here's what I'm really asking when you're reading this. As you're going through it, does the writer seem credible? Okay. So thinking about the skit yesterday, did the writers or speakers or the actors seem credible or believable? I mean, it is believable because we've all seen commercials like that, but we know that they exaggerate certain things to be funny, right? We're not supposed to take them serious, but their skills give them credibility as comedians. Pathos, did they appeal to our emotions, right? Did they make us laugh? Or did they make us frustrated, right? And then logos, did they appeal to your rational or factual side? Well, yeah, because we know it's absurd that you can't layer that many things to make a taco. Then it just becomes disgusting, right? So some things that you'll see in writing when you look at ethos and pathos, you'll look at emotional language, you'll look at certain details or imagery that they give you. You'll see a lot of imagery about tacos today in your reading. And then just like jargon, right, which would be different kind of slogans or lingo about different things. Like when people use political jargon, right, and they talk about socialism and blah, blah, blah. It's all these little terms that are associated with politics or whatever. It's the same thing. It's just, it's not always politics. It could be, you know, educational jargon, and it could be social media jargon or whatever. And then when we look at logos or pathos, logos, we see things like numbers, we see definitions, we see historical events, things that can be proven. As well as in pathos, we use a lot of emotional language. Sometimes pathos could be like anecdotes, but it could also be ethos, right? So the different ways that they appeal to credibility, to emotions, and to your sense of logic and reasoning. How are they appealing to those things? So you're going to read Taco USA. So in our folder, it's right here. It's not too long. It looks like longer than it really is. The paragraphs are really short, and it's pretty interesting. It's about these two Mexican-American astronauts who we're doing maintenance on a space shuttle and how like the evolution of tortillas for space travel and all kinds of fun things about it, which is pretty cool because it's in the context of NASA and space travel. So there's a lot of science in there with a lot of anecdotal information about, you know, the evolution of tortillas and food and tacos in general. So it's pretty cool. So right now, go ahead and take a second and just try to skim through it. At least let's look at maybe the first 3 paragraphs or 4 paragraphs. And then, so pause this video, read that real quick, and then I'll go through what these appeals look like. Okay, so now that you've looked at it, obviously you'll see a lot of appeals to logic and credibility, right? Because this writer knows clearly the direction, right? 213 miles up in space. And then the names of these 2 astronauts, right? Those are kind of appeals to credibility. You have the NASA mission, right, that flew the Discovery space shuttle to rendezvous with the International Space Station on this particular day. All of those things go to your sense of logic and credibility for the writer. Then you have a little bit of personal information about your astronauts. So Olivas, raised in El Paso, Texas, which is kind of my hood. I'm actually from Las Cruces, but whatever, it's fine. Went on a spacewalk to repair an ammonia tank, among other tasks. Hernandez, who picks crops in California's Central Valley alongside family members as a child, who is now an astronaut, sent his thoughts to our planet in Spanish. And so it says, Espero la cosecha de mi sueño sirva como inspiración a todos, right? I think I said that correctly. I hope I didn't butcher it. But in English, essentially, it's, I hope the harvest of my dreams serves as inspiration to all. So again, that kind of goes to your pathos, right? Your sense of emotion, because it's about, you know, a personal story that expresses inspiration. Then later on in the next paragraph, it says, of course, a video camera transmitted footage of the duo floating toward the galley of the middeck to open a shelf containing the ingredients needed to construct the cylindrical god, aka the burrito, in 0 gravity, flour tortillas sealed in a vacuum pack, clumps of ready-to-eat scrambled eggs, and fat sausage patties. That's imagery, right? So that goes to pathos, and that also goes to the credibility of the writer. So as you're going through the rest of the text, try to start paying attention to some of the appeals if you can. We'll practice these a lot tomorrow and on Thursday. So then your task for today, once you've read all of Taco Town or Taco USA, sorry, then you're going to answer these 2 questions. Okay, you'll press the Create tab, and then you'll say, based on your notes, who is the intended audience of this text? At the end, I believe I gave you the website where it was originally published, so you can look at that information to help you with the how do you know part. And then based on your purpose chart, those 12 different purpose verbs, what was the intended outcome? Okay, what was the goal of the writer in terms of those 12 different purpose verbs? And how do you know? Okay, so use those resources from yesterday to help you answer your response today. Remember, if you give me a purpose that's not one of those 12 verbs, you're not going to get the credit for that answer. You need to go back to that purpose chart and look for it. Okay? All right, so I hope to see you guys on Zoom at some point this week, especially because we're covering a lot of new material. Remember that tomorrow is the deadline for all of your missing assignments. It is also an asynchronous day, so you will get your attendance based on answering the question. There's going to be a question just like today's that verifies your attendance, and if it is not completed before the end of the day, you will be marked absent. So please make every effort to do it during your 6th or 7th period class time. And then I will see you guys back on live Zoom and in person on Thursday. All right? All right. Take care. Let me know if you guys have questions.